Hello there, welcome to the program. I'm Egon Kosu. Well, Baltimore and the state of Maryland are to get $60 million in federal aid to deal with the bridge collapse that's brought chaos to the port of Baltimore. The accident happened after the bridge was hit by a giant ship on Tuesday. Officials say their first priority is to find 4 workers who are presumed to have died. They then hope to clear the wreckage to allow shipping to resume through one of America's busiest ports. The governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, says it's a very complex operation.
This is an incredibly complex job, and our timeline will be long. And all of us can remember when the container ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal a few years ago, when that happened. It's important to remember that it took 5 weeks to dislodge that ship. Well, if you think about what the dolly is, the dolly is almost as long as the Eiffel Tower. And the dolly has the key bridge on top of it. We're talking 3,000 to 4,000 tons of steel that's sitting on top of that ship.
That's the mayor of Baltimore there. Erin Delmore is in New York for us. What do we know about this aid from Washington?
Well, we know that it came speedily. Usually it takes a few days for aid like this to be dispersed from the federal government. But in this case, it has only been 3 days since we saw this bridge collapse. We also know it's in the amount of $60 million. And yes, that will allow recovery and rebuilding efforts to begin to get underway. But Egon, this is not what it will take to rebuild this bridge. That sum has been estimated to be potentially as high as $2 billion. And what that means is that Congress is going to have to pony up and fund some of this mission here. It's part of why when you hear Governor Wes Moore and other Maryland officials speak, you hear them, including in the soundbite you just played, hearkening to bigger world and national events, talking about the cargo ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal, talking about the Minneapolis bridge collapse here in the United States years ago, even saying this was as big as the Eiffel Tower. They're trying to tell Congress members that this could happen anywhere. It has global implications, national trade implications. That's the message that they're trying to put forward to try to get Congress people whose own constituents may never cross this bridge to be willing to spend their constituents' taxpayer dollars on it.
Erin, thank you so much. Well, Scott Cohen is the president of the ILA Marine Workers Union in Baltimore and joins us now. Thank you so much for taking time out. Let's start with that aid from Washington. Is that enough?
You know, it's a drop in the bucket on what it's going to cost to rebuild this bridge. And there's so many other things connected to. It's not just the bridge itself. It's for the people that I represent. It's the shipping channel being closed and all the commerce that cannot get in and out of Baltimore Harbor.
So what more needs to be done, do you think?
I mean, you know, there was 6 lives lost, obviously, and they've recovered two of those souls, but there's 4 more still down there. That's the first priority. And then the second priority is to open the shipping channel. And I think the actual rebuilding of the bridge is somewhat down the line from that.
How long do you think the situation is going to take to be rectified?
That I do not know. That no one knows yet. I know that the Army Corps of Engineers and the surveyors are already on it, and it depends on how the wreckage is laying and how far across the channel it is. And I mean, that's a pretty wide channel. It accepts 2-way ship traffic, so I believe it's about 700 feet wide. So if they can get half the channel open to 1-way ship traffic, we can get the port back open.
And what's the impact that is being felt on the ground by your members, by the workers?
Well, I represent 2,400 union dock workers in the Port of Baltimore, and they're very nervous. Obviously, they don't know when this thing's going to open back up, and their lives depend on it. It's how they put food on their table and take care of their families, and everyone's still in a state of disbelief at this time.
Do you think that the local communities will take long to rebuild after this?
I think, it reaches farther than the local community. I mean, we do a lot of cargo here for the Baltimore, Washington metropolitan area. And, a lot of the community does work at the port. So I think that's where the strain is. The actual, the bridge itself, while it's a tragedy for sure, there is other options to get across the Patapsco River here. There's 2 other tunnels, so it was 3 routes to get across the bridge. I mean, this is going to be impactful for sure, but that is not going to shut it down. But this bridge being in the shipping channel shuts the port down, so a lot of the community will be affected.
Okay, Scott Cowan, president of the ILA Marine Workers Union in Baltimore, thank you so much for joining us.